There it is. I declare the meeting open at 10 a.m. Kia ora, everybody. Welcome to the inaugural Smart Growth Committee meeting. I'm very excited to have everybody. We're all here because we're very smart and we're all growing. Hopefully, emotionally and spiritually, not so much around the waistband. As smart growth. Absolutely. So yeah, welcome to members of staff and to other councillors. We don't have any, well, we have Q in the back in the auditorium here, in the audience, and no media. The public part of the meeting is being recorded and we publish on YouTube. Hopefully like and subscribe. We have an apology from Councillor Copeland, which I need a resolution. So he's away in Dunedin for the week. Move and seconded. Move and second by Councillor.
Wonder, is it appropriate to bring Q up to the table, even though he's not a member of the committee? He could just might be able to be appropriate if he sat up here with us.
Yeah, I've extended the invite to Q, and he felt more comfortable sitting in the back there. We are still waiting for Councillor Mitchell to come through online via Zoom. That was
an apology for lateness and
we'll certainly have to record what time he gets in there. That is moved by Councillor White and seconded by Councillor Smith. That the apology be accepted. All those in favour? Aye. And any against? Resolution carried. Declarations of conflict of interest. Are there any declarations for the agenda in front of us? Nope. Cool. No resolution is required. There are no registrations for public forum. No matters lying on the table. The confirmation of the agenda to be confirmed with or without any alteration. Is everybody happy with the agenda in front of them?
Yep.
I'm happy to move. Do I have a seconder? Yep. Councillor Smith, thank you very much. All those in favour, say aye.
Aye.
All those against? Yeah. Right, so we move on to item 1 of the agenda, which is the Wanaka Te Kirikiri Frankton structure. Oh, sorry, reading the wrong paper. Grow Aotearoa Spatial Plan Monitoring Report. So I invite Katrina and Anita to the table to be presenting their report. Kia ora.
Kia ora. We will be presenting on the Grow Aotearoa Monitoring Report, which monitors the outcomes from the spatial plan with all the initiatives that came out of that through the forum, through the partnership. So we'll take the paper as read. So more than welcome to any questions on it.
So, councillors, any questions of staff?
Yeah, yes, thank you through the chair. Can you comment on just the status of the Urban Growth Partnership with government, because it sort of feels like we haven't had a governance meeting for a long time. We haven't had are they really into it or not? Because it just feels like this has fallen away in light of other directions and policies of government. So.
In terms of Mr. Chair, in terms of the steering group itself, it meets quarterly, and so the steering group is made up of membership of sort of GM level across government, so very high engagement, and it's a really great opportunity to share our stories for them to understand both the opportunities and challenges that exist in our area. In terms of the governance, we've been a bit held up due to not only regional deal discussions but also the upcoming reforms. So we do acknowledge at that governance level we are in a bit of a state of waiting and seeing. But in terms of the steering group and the working groups, they are very active, and we have a lot of alliance and moving forward with those key members. I suppose the other key point is, even though the governance group exists, councillors actually sign off all of our work. So everything we do is brought before the Smart Growth Committee, but then also it's full council that will adopt or endorse our work. So we still have that governance layer with our councillors.
I suppose the question was the governance to governance bit is that, you know, one of the values of the governance group is getting in front of the ministers and actually them understanding the issues that basis, even if it's at a high level, but I'm just not sure.
And that's we've raised that exact thing as part of our regional deal discussions, and that's one of our asks to reinstate that governance group and have that ministerial support, ministerial presence on those groups.
Yeah,
that is one of the specific asks under the regional deal. Yeah. And the steering group members, partners, have been we've leveraged those relationships significantly through the regional deal discussions in terms of making sure that what we're asking for is supported on their side, particularly through partners and education. Well, and ZTA actually as well.
Is there any sense that these reports are being received at government, whether at officer level or to the ministers?
We don't know if they go through to the ministers, but the steering group officials have said they find them very helpful. But in saying that, we are going to have a re-look at these and say actually, and re-look at what we can achieve in the year, because at the moment we're reporting on everything. So actually, we're going to go through a bit of a prioritisation and think about what are the key things in particular my team will be focusing on, but also other teams across council to give that clarity.
Reframing it as an action list and including actions we require of different departments, I think, of government that it might be, and equally the consequences of them not progressing those, I think, I don't know, it just feels like it's a little bit not taken seriously by government.
I think they do take it seriously. One thing they have asked us, and this is what we've been working on every 6 months, is reporting on our priority development areas and highlighting what's happening in those areas and really understanding our growth. So I think that's really valuable. But you're right. As part of the updated reporting, we'll be also reporting on what our partners are doing, or and updates on progress in that space too. Because at the moment we acknowledge that the reporting is very one-sided, mainly what we're doing.
Yeah, well, I suppose that, that's the other bit, is understanding what they're doing to progress their side of it. Thank you.
This might be more for Ellie, just because urban intensification is mentioned in here. Have we had any appeals? And there might be a question for later, actually.
Through the chair, none as yet.
Oh, yeah. And what's the deadline?
8th of April, I think.
Oh, okay. So,
it's 30 working days.
It's 30 working days, not from our meeting, from when?
No, from when we advertised it.
Okay.
Got notified last week.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I couldn't remember the date, but okay.
I will update you on this specific.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, I realised that probably is it a better. It's a better part. It's just that it was in that, and that's my only question.
Cool. Well, that's fairly simple. Resolution required that the Smart Growth Committee note the contents of this report. I'm happy to move. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Smith.
Just on a note from Councillor Mitchell, saying he's trying to join. I don't know what that means.
Someone from our team's trying to get him on right now.
Yeah. All right. Well, we can note when he enters in the minutes and then put that on. But that's it. Deliberations.
No, I can see him behind us. Being part of the votes, if he wasn't here.
Okay, we'll move on with this vote and vote next. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against. Great. Motion carried. Noted the report. Item 2, we have, before we do that, I'll introduce or welcome Councillor Mitchell. If you can hear us, that would be great to get confirmation and turn your audio and camera on so that we can see you. Hello.
Hi team, yes, I'm with you now. Sorry about that.
Glad to have you, that's all good. We'll make a note on the time, just for timekeeping, but we'll move on to item 2, which is the Wanaka and T Kitty Frankton Structure Plan Project, inviting Liz and Cameron online, and Anita and Penny. She's just integral to all of the decisions. Welcome.
Good morning. We'll take the report as read, but we'll just provide a quick summary from myself and Cam, who's online. So we have the 2021 Queenstown Lake Spatial Plan, and as part of that, we identified 6 priority development areas for growth. 2 of those have now been completed. That's the Eastern and the Southern Corridor. And we're now beginning work on the structured plans required to implement those priority development areas for Wanaka and Frankton. Cam will speak shortly to the Frankton one, and I'll just speak quickly for the one on Wanaka. So we're proposing for Wanaka to deliver a single integrated structured plan, and that's covering off the 2 priority development areas of South Wanaka and Wanaka Town Centre to 3 parks. And the reason for doing an integrated approach is because the areas both share the same transport and infrastructure dependencies. And so if we structure plan as a single piece, then that allows us to coordinate the framework for future district plan changes and our infrastructure investment decisions. For Wanaka, we anticipate that this work will take a couple of years, and that's allowing us some time to try and explore some alternative engagement approaches, because we'd really like to use this as an opportunity to complete some really meaningful community participation as the structure plan progresses. And yeah, at the moment, we've only really just started beginning work. So we've got 3 pieces of technical reporting that's underway. One is for stage 1 hazard assessment, our ecological report, and the cultural values assessment from Kātahu. My next plan is to come to you guys in probably April with some options around community engagement to discuss with you. And what I'll do now is I'll just pass over to Cam to chat about Frankton.
Should we cover up the Wanaka one first?
Well, firstly, Cam set precedent, then we can ask questions and discuss. Cameron?
Good morning, committee members. Hopefully you can hear me okay. So for Te Kirikiri Frankton, we're building on the master plan that was developed in 2020 and giving it a bit of an update in terms of understanding what's occurred in Frankton, which has been quite a lot in the last 5 years, and a lot of potential development that is going to occur quite quickly over the next few years, including things like transport and fast track applications like Southern Infrastructure with the gondola, how this works in with Frankton as a whole, and trying to understand the role that it plays within Queenstown as well. So we are trying to develop the structure plan over the next 12 to 18 months to try and align with a lot of the work that's going on with the regional deal and sort of early implications for potentially the regional spatial plan. So we're growing a little bit quicker, but we have already engaged some consultants through urban design, and we'll be looking for landscape, economic, cultural, Three Waters, transport. We're working with a transport team and Waka Kotahi around all of the information and modelling that they've either doing or currently doing to try and build up a picture for us around transport. And we have just started, almost completed a document called a foundation document, which basically sets a scene for what's happened in Frankton from a historic point of view, in terms of what's going on now, what's currently consented and future consented developments, and basically a look at the 4 wellbeings really in terms of what is in Frankton and what are some of the things that we need to look at and address over the next 12 to 18 months. So in April, when the next Smart Growth Committee meeting is, we're looking to workshop some of those things with you that we found, gearing up for our first workshop with the community and stakeholders to try and flesh out a little bit more around some of those issues that we need to test out in the early development of the structure plan. So I think I'll end there, and like Liz, happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Cameron. Open up to questions. Deputy Mayor can start us off.
Yeah, thank you. Can you just talk about the methodology, if you like, of identifying the areas of focus and areas of influence in both of these plans? Yeah, initially.
Just generally.
Yeah, well, why are the areas identified as areas of focus, and or how were they identified?
Yeah.
And what was the methodology? Yeah.
Well, for Wanaka, through the spatial plan, we identified 2 priority development areas. One was Wanaka South, which I forgot what colour that is on the map.
Blue.
Blue. And then there was the 3 parts to Wanaka Town Centre, and then you have that area in the middle, which is a bit of a gap between. So when we looked at how we were going to approach Wanaka, because they do have a lot of integrated dependencies from an infrastructure point of view and transport, it made sense to look at the area as a whole, because we've got the central area in the middle, rather than leaving that out and ignoring it. It kind of makes sense to bring that in. We may not make any moves to do any changes in terms of any kind of land use planning, but it certainly helps from an infrastructure and transport perspective.
One of the reasons I was asking is the 2 maps in front of us take a very different approach to area of influence, and I don't understand. Well, firstly, the way you've described it, if this is taken directly from the spatial plan, then there's areas in it. The areas of focus have significant areas in them because they haven't been taken directly from the spatial plan, and I know because I've created them.
Yeah.
And the other is the green area, you know, as it extends to the west, for instance, for Wanaka, has no logical boundary to it. It includes some rural properties like Ripon and but not Pinch Barn Farm or whatever. So I don't understand what the boundary of that area of influence is, and equally if there should be other areas of influence that could have been considered. But I mean, specifically, we pulled the southern extent of the back to Riverbank Road from where it is shown on that map, and it should be correctly shown as stopping at Riverbank Road, the extent of the area of focus in blue.
Mm-hmm.
And equally, the purple area doesn't includes areas that haven't been identified as priority development areas as well.
Yeah, I think what we were thinking about when we did this plan in terms of our initial, so it's not a public report at the moment, but our project plan is that we did widen the boundaries slightly for sort of the initial assessment while we're doing some of the initial technical work around hazards and the ecological report to make sure that we have sensible boundaries and we haven't skipped out on, for example, I think right down the far end of area A in the south, there was 1 or 2 land parcels that were missing that had the same zoning as where we stopped them.
Yeah, that's intentional, entirely intentional.
Yeah, and it
and I think, I mean, this is my point, is I think those decisions were intentional and those things were assessed through the spatial plan. So I don't quite understand why they're being.
I think what might be helpful is if we actually mapped the priority development areas over. Similar to Te Tapawai, when you look at what we did in the Southern Corridor, we concentrated on a broader area because you can't just
that's the area.
Yeah.
So the priority development area is a defined thing. It's defined by the spatial plan. This is an action out of the spatial plan to create a structure plan for the priority development area, not for the areas around it. The areas of influence you can then consider as reasons to bring those in and out. But I think you need to be really disciplined in sticking to the spatial plan priority development areas. And if you've got a case to bring areas in or out, then you need to do that through the area of influence.
Mm-hmm.
Is that
that's reasonable?
Fair? So I mean, I think that you can't call these aren't priority development areas anymore because they don't align with what the spatial plan identified. they are just areas that have been identified, just new coloured blobs. So that the priority development areas were very specific things, and they should be treated as such. So
The points, points noted. Councillor Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was interested to hear and read and hear the emphasis being put on the Southern Infrastructures Cableway project. Where does given it has no status either in the regional deal or currently as a fast track, it's an application for an initial phase. Where does the mandate to begin work on that sit when the emphasis of all of this, these strategies and spatial planning is on an integrated approach?
There's no emphasis being placed on it. It's just noting that it's happening in conjunction with this project. So it was not an emphasis on the actual project itself. It was just noting that there are other things that are happening that are moving at the same time as this project.
I think it is important to note, though, that the spatial plan itself talks about the need for mass rapid transport.
Yes.
Offline, and that all the business cases which form the strategy for transport also highlight offline mass rapid transport, probably through an aerial roadway solution as a future strategic solution, not Southern Infrastructure's specific project, but our current strategies, which are represented in our current business cases for transport, do highlight that. So part of the purpose of the structure plan happening now is to ensure that it slots into the strategic network plan that NZTA are doing, which is essentially an update of all of that strategic work. So that I guess that the emphasis should be more on the strategic network plan being done by NZTA, because that will come up with a recommendation for what the strategic network solutions are across roading, public transport, offline MRT, and then the structure plan is essentially how we work through the detail of how that would be, actually work, what it should look like, not just in Frankton, but servicing our other priority, our other areas as well.
Sure, and and I agree with all of that. I just very wary of us saying, I'm happy to say this in a public meeting, that anything that makes it look as if we have preference for one project in this process, which any of this discussion, when one applicant and project which is got a whole lot of merit but hasn't yet been included in these discussions, puts the council in a difficult position. So I'd rather see the more strategic generic approach at this stage and then see later what the actual solutions are going to be, because we're putting the cableway, we're risking putting the cableway solution cart ahead of the strategic course here, I think.
So just a couple of things from my end. So in the 2020 master plan, a gondola was actually suggested as a response. So it was sort of identified back then, not knowing who the applicants might have been in the future in terms of the two opportunities that are coming towards you in terms of an offline sort of treatment. But to reinforce the point, the structure plan is going to look at an integrated solution. It's going to be more than just one type of transport response. We're going to need to look at everything, and we have two applications, or there are two interested parties in providing a response. We need to consider how either one of those or none of them or something new might come along to help us in terms of looking at the future for Frankton. So it's not focusing on one particular route. It is looking at all the options that we're going to need to try and help resolve the transport issues within Frankton.
Sure. Thanks for that. And I'll just make a final observation then. I think we need to be very clear that we are taking a strategic network approach, and that any proposal at this stage is premature in that respect. We need to make sure that we have it take a proper logical approach to this so that we actually meet the needs rather than just throw up solutions before we even understand what the context is. So thanks for that.
I think probably it's useful to record then what we are talking about here is the time frame is shorter to ensure that we can leverage the strategic work being done by NZTA and ensure that we know whether particular proposals on the table are the right ones or not before they get too far through the process. So I think that's the point this paragraph was trying to be make. So I think we can record that we're not saying that project is the solution. We're saying the time frame for doing the structure plan has to be shortened so that we can move through the appropriate process to determine whether that or other options are in fact the strategic solutions. That's what that paragraph's trying to get at, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think if we can just clarify that, that would be.
Yeah, that's.
I think that hopefully addresses Councillor Mitchell's question.
And I think it probably echoes the sentiment from a lot of others. So that's fair to say. Before I go back to you, Mel, did you have any good questions?
No, only so I shouldn't say no and then ask a question. Sorry, one question. Attachment B, which is a general approach and indicative timeframes. With regards to the engagement, iwi stakeholder and public, is that already started, or that's just across the whole?
No, that's for Frankton.
Yeah, Frankton, sorry, attachment B. Looking at.
No, we haven't started, and we're just trying to gear up a process so that it's integrated. So we're wanting to use smart growth for a lot more workshops, and that will inform the stakeholder workshops that you see in the pink colour in there, and then it's kind of like a circle of feedback and refinement, and also using a lot more engagement online for getting people's views on certain things as we're working through some of the issues. So it's an integrated sort of circular life, if I want to say it that way, in terms of the engagement throughout this process, building up to the draft structure plan. So it's not just sort of the community sees it just at the draft, it's through this whole development over the next 6 to 8 months.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
So in April, there'll be a workshop where these guys are going to go through the process for doing the structure plan. So what's outlined in these slides in more detail, and agree with you the touch points with you and the community and how you want to be involved in forming that. And they'll also bring you, I think it's the Frankton Frankton actual engagement plan before any engagement's done. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Thank you.
Councillor Smith.
Yeah, just coming back to this priority development areas. I mean, I'm just looking at. It's in figure 1 in your report, but going back to the spatial plan itself. And I just reminded myself that the priority development areas were identified in 2 different ways. One was that they were either actually spatially shown, which is the case with Ladies Mile and Wanaka South, and even part of Hawea, whether they were actually spatially shown in whatever colour, in orange or something. Well, Hawea is not a priority development area, sorry, but that was a future development area. But the Ladies Mile and Wanaka South are in orange, whereas the other ones are corridors, if I've been identified as corridors, and obviously in the southern corridor you've been able to define the boundaries in that way.
Yeah.
And you've done that work. But equally, what's the basis for doing one for the entire Frankton flats when it hasn't been identified in that way? Even it hasn't even been described in that way in the spatial plan. I accept that the 3 Parks Town Centre one has been identified as a corridor, so you might look at the boundaries of that more broader, but equally that extends all the way to Ely Point, and you haven't included that at all.
Yeah, that's an oversight, correct that.
And you know, it goes right up to Lismore. So, yeah, there's a whole section of finger there that hasn't been included on. Anyway, I just want those things to be more clearly aligned. I accept that the corridors can be redefined to some degree, and they have in the southern corridor, but the areas I think are defined by the spatial plan.
When we, in the early stages of Te Tapawai, it was agreed to separate Remarkables Park out. It was just concentrating on that southern corridor. So with Te Kiri Frankton, when we looked at that, so there's obviously Remarkables Park, and then you've got that 5 mile corridor. So if you're looking at those places collectively, it doesn't make sense to just isolate them.
I don't disagree.
But you're right. I think what we need to do
is
is to highlight that. And also on the mapping, we need to just clearly mark that. And so that's the reason why Frankton, in terms of the southern corridor, again, we'll mark those priority development areas and we'll show that, but it makes sense to deal with them collectively because they function as a whole. So
I don't disagree. I'm just trying to, what's the driver? Is, you know, and the driver in that case is that the 5 mile corridor and the other one were both identified in the spatial plan as corridors, but we want to do it, link it together. But I think that the areas of influence need some more work, because I think that in the case of Frankton, you've just drawn a line around the, you know, the proposed area of focus, and I don't think that's the correct interpretation of an area of influence. Your area of influence is dictated by transport, by public, you know, interfaces with the waterways and, you know, the airport and all those other things that you're not planning on changing, but you are that influenced by the development. So I think that needs more work. So as I said, define the area of focus more clearly and bring it back to the spatial plan, and then actually look at the area of focus on a consistent set of criteria around transport and use and connectivity.
I just wanted to reiterate, you guys are thinking of how to workshop a lot of these structure plans, and we will have more involvement throughout the process just to reassure your points. This may not be the right formal setting for that at this point, but it's all in good time. The points taken, and I think like consideration for it.
Sorry, can I just ask a clarifying question to that?
Yeah.
So does that mean your question on Southern Wanaka and the corridor to 3 parks was that it needed to exactly match what was in the spatial plan because the boundary on that was intentional.
The priority development areas.
For the priority development areas, and we can define a broader area of focus, but we need to make sure the boundaries remain the same because of the intentional nature of how they were set. But
that's where you bring the area, you use if you want to bring areas in, you use the area of influence still.
But in relation to Te Kiri Frankton, they're not defined in the same way. So they're not as closely defined in terms of those parcels of land. So you're happy that it's the priority development area, is redefined as Te Kiri Frankton with a different border.
As long with some justification
for why we've done that. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that that's.
I think it's important to identify they were dealt with in 2 different ways in the spatial plan. There's priority development areas and there's corridors, and that's different things.
Which don't necessarily make.
Sorry, I was just going.
Helpful as we move forward.
No, but that's something. I mean, this is a great thing while workshopping is going to really help us. And so we can nail out those sort of issues right from the start, and then we advise that direction. So
I mean, I think with the Ladies Mile, for instance, I think the area was the area that was defined by the PDA. So
yes. That's because that was going concurrently with the spatial plan, so it was a bit different.
Okay. Councillor Mitchell, we had a question. Hopefully that will be the final.
Thank you. Thanks for that. Good conversation there. So a question then in relation to both Wanaka, as it's so rapidly growing, and particularly I suppose, what would you call it? The area covered in that map, at least, becoming increasingly as well as commercial, but an administrative base for the Upper Clutha. and Frankton Flats being similar, in the community and developer panel, have government agencies and others, in particular police, fire and emergency, regional council, and I don't know where that's going to go, education, Ministry of Social Development, are they involved in that? And that they will be increasingly in future strategic, at least tenants, if not property owners in those areas. Are they involved in those, in that sort of engagement?
For Wanaka, yes, we are, well, we're just organising the engagement approach and stakeholders. I don't think we've ever included, I can't remember which one you mentioned before, social development.
Yeah, so there is, in particular with the proposal for a social agency hub in Frankton area, but there, with the increasing importance of, in particular, Queenstown, but also Wanaka as well, in that, in the agencies will have increased presence in these areas in future. And I recall that in the Frankton Master Plan, there was a concept of a joint emergency services precinct as well, which is a model that is growing around Aotearoa. I think it's going to be crucial to include them in those conversations so that those future needs, and I'm thinking about the future regional spatial plan as much as what we're doing at the moment, because they need to be involved in those conversations now, so that's because it takes so long for them to be able to line up funding bids for anything that might occur in those areas, and having them involved in those conversations now as the current and future stakeholders, I think, would be useful.
I think that was largely one of the purposes of the spatial plan and the partnership, was to align those things. And the one that example that's been used before is the Ministry of Education have adopted council's growth projections and stuff as being a guide towards their decision making. So yeah, I mean it runs both ways. They might be involved in the development of it, but they clearly aren't using the output of it, or need to be using the output of it. That's the other side of it, is that this is our way to provide them the information they need to make the decisions.
Cameron,
Sure.
I think respond to that.
Yeah, sorry, I cannot find the hand button in Zoom. It's been a long time since I've used Zoom, but lots to talk about. Very briefly, from a Frankton structure plan point of view, this integration with community facilities, services, the whole kit and caboodle is the major focus. Generally in structure plans, we look at residential growth and we re-put them and all those types of things. From Frankton's point of view, it is so different because we're under pressure with so many things that are going in there. And to take just probably one example, we've already had an initial discussion with the high school, especially around their growth levels, what they are wanting in the future in terms of links with tertiary opportunities, so that our students aren't going to like Cromwell to get tertiary style education. Those are the things we want to sort of build up. Emergency services, all those types of things, are community facilities, our open space, all those things are going to be major focuses for the structure plan alongside commercial, retail, industrial. We're doing an industrial study to try and figure out what's going on there from a Frankton and a wider network perspective. It is going to be a fundamental. So, Councillor Mitchell, we are looking quite broadly, especially for Frankton, and all of those sort of organisations that you sort of talked about. We would hope we'd get some of them, if not all of them, onto our stakeholder workshops so they can be involved earlier on in terms of the development of this.
Thanks, Cameron. I'm really glad to hear that. I think it might take some direct invitation and perhaps even cajoling to get Southern along. But yeah, thanks for that. Very, very reassuring.
One final question just to add to all of it. I know this is good thinking to help inform the regional spatial plan or sub-regional into the future RMA reform stuff. How does the legislative weight of work like this work under the new RMA, and what sort of mechanisms can we use to ensure that it gets built as we think of it?
$1 million question. The $1 billion question.
Cameron, did you want to answer that? You've had a few thoughts on that?
So, from a strategic growth point of view, it's probably really positive that spatial plans have a lot more weight moving forward under the new reforms, so to speak. So I think government is sort of responded to the work that we do in terms of structure plans and spatial plans, and wanting to get that more integrated into planning documents and that sort of thing. So that's really good. There's a little uncertainty around sort of structure plans where they fit in between. So we do a regional spatial plan, we have a district plan or whatever it's now called under the new regime. But we still think that there's going to be structure plans going to be required. And I would think that they would probably have similar teeth to what's sort of proposed. But until we get the final bill and the final act actually comes into force, we won't know for certain. But the government has certainly signalled that spatial planning is a priority sort of moving forward, which is positive. And I think that the legislation is embracing that.
Nice. Well, I'm going to move the resolution, a very contentious noting of the report.
Second.
Yeah, there you go, seconded. Comments. I think structure plans are great. It feels like a way to get ahead of a lot of things before things happen. And I know that with the Wanaka one in particular, the integration of community throughout and having the time to really build consensus as much is going to be as important as the legislative backing, because I think when you build a plan collaboratively with people, there's more buy-in, there's more sort of sense of its nobility as a direction and a vision. So happy to see this work go through, especially as before it starts to expand into regional and sub-regional. Getting this level of thinking now, I think is really relevant. So yeah, exciting and very relevant. Anyone else want to make any comments?
No.
Cool. Deputy Mayor. Councillor Mitchell.
Yeah, thanks, Cody. Yeah, I think it's all great stuff. And thanks for answering the question so well. I'd just like to say that I think the crucial part here, the role that the QLDC has to play, part of it is, shepherding this process forward and leading in it, which is great. Ensuring that we do that. Challenges, though, are that irrespective of how effective this might be and what the current government the weight that they're putting on the sort of planning, fast track applications just throw spanners potentially into the works so easily. So we need to keep our eyes pretty wide open as to what else might be on the horizon. So while we're going through this, and potentially being aware of what opportunities that we might be creating and unintentionally encouraging fast track applications by the way that we do things. So something to think about going forward, but also the role of QLDC in funding some of these things. And a challenge for us will be how we will fund our components of enabling these things to happen in the right place at the right time. Is a separate problem, but something we have to continue to focus on. So thanks for that.
Thank you. All right, I will move it to the vote. All those in favour say aye.
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 Any against? Well, unanimous. Motion carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, staff. I now invite Ali to the table to update on progress on the proposed plan and other key projects.
Thank you. Good morning.
Kia ora.
Thank you for having me. What I'll do is I will give you the opportunity to ask questions about any of the work program that we've got here. So the easiest way we find to do that is to go through page by page, and please stop me if you have any questions, and I will answer them to the best of my ability.
Okay, yeah.
Just before we do start, just to confirm the earlier question, that the final day for appeals on the urban intensification variation is the 8th of April.
Okay, thank you.
As and when we receive appeals, usually they come down to the wire in terms of the last couple of days, we will upload them onto the council's website so that everybody can see what's there.
Yeah, cool, thank you.
Cool. Let's go to page maybe 38, 39. This is the couple of pages where I sort of talk about the role of the planning policy team, what we're doing, and how our work relates to what this report helps you through in terms of status of reports. If there's anything on the report itself, otherwise we could go straight to page 42, which is the table. I'll go down to 43. Nothing there. Please stop me if there's anything that's jumping out. On page 44 in bold, we have a bit of an update in terms of the Arthur's Point re-notification. So it's a stage 1 appeal to the PDP. There was an Environment Court hearing held late last year. It's not concluded. We've got some further court dates that we're working towards with some additional supplementary evidence. And I think the dates for that going to court will be March or April. I haven't got them with me, but I can find out if anybody needs them. But yeah, that work is still in progress, unfortunately. Bunker and Rouse, which is Sticky Forest, we've got the final decision on that, and the E-plan has been updated to show the change in zoning over there in Wanaka.
Was there any update on the rural visitors? Is that largely the one remaining for rural visitors?
Yes, yep, there is an update report in the public excluded part of this agenda. Yep, as I mentioned, urban intensification is in the appeal period at the moment.
Did we get any thing back from the minister about the?
We have heard nothing yet. Yeah, we met the timeframe in which we needed to get
schedule. Sorry.
Yeah, I knew where you were.
Yeah.
That is at the bottom of page 47, top of page 48. The Upper Clutha landscape schedules, the council made an application to the minister late last year within the timeframe required to seek support to carry on with that variation, and we have not received anything from the minister as yet. Page 48, that was a list of special zones that we were reviewing prior to the plan stop legislation. And we are looking to provide another agenda item to full council that lists some projects that may be suitable for a subsequent application to the minister for some of those, not all of those zones. And that will support the work that we've just been discussing as part of the structure plan work.
How does this fit into the, I guess, central government director work of, I don't know what the right word is, but unifying zones or grouping them
Standardisation.
Standardisation is, but
quite well, to be fair.
yeah.
What the government has told us through that plan stop legislation is try not to notify anything unless it's meeting our mantras of going for housing growth and the like.
Yeah.
But ensure that you keep on doing the work so that when we are in a position to use those standard zones, like through our land use chapters, which come under the spatial plan, then we're ready to go in terms of essentially picking the right zone for it. So we need to be aware and mindful that some of these zones haven't been reviewed yet. We were well on the way before that plan stop legislation. We haven't given effect to the MPSUD in terms of policy 5 type requirements for them because they were in the operative plan. So there's still a work in progress that we can be doing now. So we're ready to adapt to those zones as soon as we've got them.
Notwithstanding, I'm sure it's affected by the plan stop thing. I was pointed out to me the other day that the natural hazards really hasn't progressed very far in the last few years, given its level, the risk that was identified there.
Yep.
I can comment on that to the chair. We have been working on that quite a bit. We've had different engineering reports done and more extensive work done to understand the hazard. We've had continual change of the background legislation controlling natural hazards to the point on January 15th, a new MPS natural hazards have come out, which has made us have to shift again in relation to what we've got to do in that area because of the change of how hazards are seen, identified and catered for. So we're working through that and hopefully bringing a paper to council in the near future to discuss how we move forward in that area. Yeah. So yeah, and look, I accept there's been frustration in that area because people want to know what's happening, but it's not been a lack of work. It's been a lot of change along the way. Our engineering
Can you explain briefly what the MPS, the natural hazards requires?
Yeah, sure. So it's a different way of analysing the risk and frequency. So risk profiles, and it's very specific about what councils need to do in relation to what risk profile is set up to be able to completely avoid development in areas where there's a high risk, high frequency.
And have they set a threshold for that?
They have.
Okay.
So
that's helpful probably because, you know, one of the uncertainties was how do we define, you know, what's acceptable or not. So yeah, it's good that they've created that.
Yes, and I think government have come in and tried to understand council's position in a difficult scenario with lots of natural hazards and how we could possibly manage those. So it's pragmatic approaches or what was being pushed by the MPS NH.
Does it provide any more consistency around who's responsible for the hazards, whether it's the regional council or the, because as I've pointed out before, we've sort of taken a very different approach in Glenorchy than we have to Portrush. So
no, I don't believe that the MPS has defined particularly where that lies, and with the uncertainty at the moment with the regional council, we really don't know what's going to occur in this case.
That's fine. Thank you.
Are we page 49? And then page 50, to note that a hearing will be held in April for the Hills private plan change. 51, you'll note in the public excluded agenda item that we're really getting through some of those final appeals. So look to make plan operative list shortly, which will be great. Page 52 is just an analysis of appeals and appeal points, and we go through the chapters which don't have any outstanding appeals down to page 54 when we start reporting on some of the resolution that we've been receiving in terms of Williamson, which draft consent documentation has been lodged with the court. That's both for the zoning as well as the road, which was a resource consent. Happy to answer any general questions with regards to those, otherwise I can answer any specific ones in the public excluded part of the agenda. Yeah, unless there's any other questions, yeah. Happy to take the rest of the agenda as read.
Cool, do we have any other more general questions?
It is getting shorter though.
I know, I'm quite excited.
Yeah. Sinking lid or whatever.
Yes, it's a bit of
Slow progress, but it's shorter than it was.
Stop getting bills.
So, yeah.
You know?
Okay, well, the resolution required is that the Smart Growth Committee, one, note the contents of this report, and two, note the updates on timings and progress on projects undertaken by the planning policy team. I need a mover and a seconder.
I'll second it.
Great, Councillor White's moved, Councillor Mitchell is second. Do we have any discussion? That's good procedural. I'll move to the vote. All those in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Any against? All carried unanimously. Great, thank you very much. Now, I will go to the next item, which is that the public be excluded from the meeting for the following items. Item 4, update on the proposed district plan appeals. An update, item 5, update on active resource consent appeals. The public recording will stop and the new recording will start.
I think we have to move.
Do we have to,
we have to move.
sorry, we
it
have to
to
move
be
it,
excluded
I'm
before
happy to
we stop
move.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Councillor White. All those in favour?
Right.
Thank you. That's carried. We can do that.